I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending November the 6th, where we had a lot rougher week than what we thought we were going to have. Come in early in the week and everybody thought things were going to be kind of all right. We've been pulling ourselves out of that wreck for the last several weeks. We had a big clearance of our show list the previous week there, albeit at lower prices, but we felt good about that. And the Packers bought so many cattle because they felt like they were getting a good deal on them. But still, we come in early in the week. Your Monday sales, your feeder cattle auctions were steady to higher, and we thought that things were going to be all right. And the board wasn't acting too bad. Then we come in middle of the week. Wednesday, the board's down the limit for no apparent reason. Thursday, down limit losses too, but not the expanded limits, but still down really hard. We ended up live cattle for December, rallied on Friday, but ended up closing just up 52 cents at 134.92, which was down $6.75 for the week. Feeder cattle for November were unchanged on Friday, which you don't see very often. Ended the week at 181.80, which was down $8.70 for the week. CME feeder cattle index was down all week, just chasing the board lower, but still at quite a bit of a premium to what the spot November feeder cattle contract is. But CME index ended the week at 189.52. Cattle Market Central's real-time index, which is always a little more up to date because you have the last trading day's information in there. It's at 185.76. When we see that start to slow down or start to turn around and come back up, then we know the CME index will also do the same thing. You can go on there and monitor that daily at cattlemarketcentral.com if you'd like to do that. But your feedlots are filling up, and maybe not all the pens are full, but the pens coming in are full right now. And then we wonder why feeder cattle are selling lower, and they were lower around this week. Started early in the week mostly steady, and then started drifting on Tuesday, maybe $2 or $3 lower. And then after the board wrecked there middle of the week, your late sales on your feeder type, the few yearlings that are around, but your big cattle going right into the feed yard, were $8 to $12 lower. Now calves sold from steady to $3 to maybe as much as $10 higher on the right ones, especially some that were weaned and straightened out and ready to turn out on wheat, selling in the southern plains there. But even in the southeast, your calves sold steady to $4 higher. And you might wonder, well, if we're in the middle of the calf run, we got all these calves coming to town, you'd think the supply would diminish the demand for that. But and we don't have hardly any true yearlings right now, so you'd think the demand would be better for your big feeding cattle. But the thing is, as we were talking about the feedlots, those inlet pens and those your coming in lots and your guys that are processing those cattle and getting them started and all that kind of things, that deal's clogged up because we've got lots and lots of cattle coming into feedlots right now from country sales, out of their videos, direct sales, just all kinds of previously contracted cattle are coming in. A few of those might still be yearling, especially over in your southern part of your Rockies and places like that. You had some fall yearlings, but most of them are just big giant calves. And when you're getting 700 to 800 pound big balling calves coming into your feedlots, it's about all those guys can do around there to get those processed and try to take care of them and doctor sick ones and just keep things going. So there's not a lot of demand for feeding type cattle. Now we do have demand for cattle to turn out on wheat. Some of your growing lots and your guys that dry winter calves and things like that and grow them up and get ready for spring on your lighter calves to get them ready for bigger cattle to go out on grass. They're still demanded calves, and even though we've been slow to get our calf run going, we're in the meat of the calf run now, and we're selling a lot of cattle in the sale barns and your smaller producers. And it takes an awful big producer just to sell all of his calves direct, because your calves are always going to need to be sexed and sized and sorted and things like that. And by the time you get that done, you don't have a very even set of them. But that's why we have sale barns, and there's sure nothing wrong with that. It's always good to get some competitive buyers across from each other, and an auctioneer, and some cattle in front of them, and cigarette smoke and hamburger grease and all that just all mixes together and makes for a good combination to sell cattle. Your box beef cutout values were down this week, down hard late in the week. We're expecting that. We're getting into time we start thinking about Thanksgiving, and everybody's thinking about turkey and not so much about steaks, and it's starting to cool off and people are backing off of their backyard grills a little bit. We do expect another little rally in between the two, Thanksgiving and Christmas, as people go out to eat a lot and have parties and things like that. They'll go out and eat some steaks, so we're going to wait on that a little bit. Slaughter is still fairly light, but ended up being a little bit better than what we thought this week. At estimated slaughter of 563,000, and that's because the Packers are back in the black and making a little bit more money, and then they bought so many cattle the previous week. So that 563 is not bad. It's kind of in the middle of the 550s that keep us clogged up, and the 570s or 80s that'll keep us cleaned out and let this market go ahead and be healthy. But it's right in there in the middle. Your fat cattle trade this week was down hard, $4 to $5 on a live basis. Texas sold some cattle there late in the week from 132 to 134. Kansas and Nebraska in places, Colorado 134 to 135 late in the week. Iowa, the Packers just continue to abuse those Iowa guys, especially the farmer feeders. Most of your bigger commercial lots in Iowa are just selling them on the rail or doing some kind of a formula deal, but those farmer feeders, they just continue to abuse them, and you wonder why nobody wants to do this on their own. But they sold live cattle late in the week from 129 to 131. Sold some dressed cattle at 203, which would have been $7 lower, and even some at 202, like $8 lower in the meat. But you look late in the week there at the Cattle Market Central, Bloomington, Wisconsin, on Friday, had a load of 750-pound steers. That's what the board calls for. Bring 199.75, and that's up in Wisconsin on a Friday. Your CME index is at 189.52. Your RTI on Cattle Market Central is 185.76, and that quotes for the same thing, which sold just a quarter off of $2 a pound. But check out DV Auction for a lot of auctions coming up this week. Still having some fall production sales. Be sure and tune in on Monday evening at 6 o'clock Eastern, be 5 o'clock Central there. On Monday the 9th, your Virginia Cattlemen's Association is going to have a tele-auction, and this week it's the Abington Feeder Cattle Association. Be right there on DV Auction. They've got 47 loads of cattle. Now this ain't junk. It said no shipped in type deal. These are cattle that are raised right there on the farm. They're not leaving the farm till they get ready to ship and go to a new buyer. You might have a couple of neighbors that throw in together to make a load, but those cattle have all been process verified. They've all had all the shots that you'd ever want to give one. They've all been weaned. They've got third-party screening on everything that they do. And you sure need to, especially if you're on that eastern corn belt, or even if you're back out this way in the western corn belt and in the plains, look at those Virginia cattle. There's no better cattle anywhere. They'll be 99% black, and they'll all be long-time weans, and a lot of yearlings on there. If you're looking for some true yearlings, they've got some of those on there too. And just tune in there at 6 o'clock Eastern on DV Auction Monday evening the 9th. And listen to the way they sell those cattle on there. Got a guy calling bids there, not necessarily crying an auction chant, but he's calling the bids out loud and trying to get guys to bid on the phone and on the internet there. There's nobody really in the crowd, and it's worth it all just to hear old Butch in the background. If those cattle aren't bringing what he thinks they ought to, he might holler out, "Lord have mercy," or something like that. And he sounds kind of like Bob Wills cheering on his band, the Playboys. But it's really interesting to watch the way they sell those and look at the kind of cattle they got. Don't miss that sale from the Virginia Cattlemen's Association. And from a home office here in Maysville, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.